Largely, the United States over the years has seen Saudi Arabia as a regional player because of its size, because of its being a massive global oil producer and exporter. But it was confined to regional issues in the Middle East. And even there, because the United States had served as the security guarantor of the Saudis and the region itself, that role wasn't very prominent. I would say in the last 10 years, since the United States started the nuclear negotiations in earnest with Iran, and we had the nuclear deal in 2015, that sort of led to sort of a divergence of interest between the Saudis and the Americans. And the Saudis began to explore their own sort of capacity to conduct foreign policy in the region and beyond. Now, being such a large producer of crude, the only one with excess capability. And then that really gave the Saudis leverage, especially with Russia, because Russia is also an oil producer. Hence the formation called OPEC plus. OPEC is the oil exporting and producing countries led by Saudi Arabia, and plus signified the bringing in of Russia into that cartel, if you will, loosely speaking. And so that really built up. Now, in terms of the Ukraine conflict, fast forward, what you have is an increasing sort of Saudi relationship where the Saudis hosted talks. And the Saudis have been engaged in diplomacy, and the Russians needed somebody that could play that third party, that mediator or sort of convener, if you will. It wasn't possible for the Russians to come to the United States, nor for the United States to go to Russia. And certainly Europe was not seen as sort of that neutral convener. Bear in mind that Turkey is an aspiring great power. And it's a cause of concern for the United States, for the Saudis, and for the Russians for different reasons. It's the least of concern for the US because of just sort of geographical distance. But for the Saudis, they don't want to sort of now, having sort of weakened the Iranian hold on the region, to just accept in its place Turkish domination, which is what we're seeing happening in Syria. I think the Saudis saw that and they're trying to boost their own position, globally speaking, as well as in the region. Now, it's like the Saudis are saying to the United States, look, we can help you in issues that matter most to you. And in return, we would like you to deal with us on issues that are of more immediate importance to the kingdom, i.e., in the region, in the Middle East, and particularly the situation in Gaza. Now the Saudis, they've been diversifying their economy away from the dependency on petroleum products, and mostly crude oil. And so that is another incentive. How if you expand your geopolitical strategic footprint in the world, it gives you leverage to be able to help diversify, meet your long-term imperative, medium to long-term imperative of diversifying your economy, which is, Vision 2030 that the Crown Prince unveiled some years back. You also have the reality that the United States now wants you to do the heavy lifting inside the region. Especially the focus is on Gaza right now, but it's the broader Israeli-Palestinian issue. It's also how do you balance with Iran? How do you balance with Turkey? Ultimately, from the U.S. point of view, there are four powers in the region. There are, and in no order necessarily: Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. The United States needs to balance the imperatives of each, along with their constraints. So the Saudis are inserting themselves increasingly. The Saudis have historically been a weaker player, and therefore they know that if they have to play a heavier role, then they will need to, put their money where their mouth is, and that means significant financial outlays. Rebuilding of Gaza is one thing. So by being at a higher table, at a bigger table on a global scale, you get to have leverage on the smaller table of the region. So I think that's what the Saudis are aiming for. Iran has been weakened in the region. It's lost the Levant, for the moment, and I think for the foreseeable future. So, in that light, you have a situation where that's good for the Saudis. The Saudis want to be able to consolidate on that. They know that Iran has far more military prowess than they do. And the Iranians are, wired in a way which makes them sort of an offensive power. The kingdom, on the other hand, is a conservative power, reliant on even right now on the United States for its security. So there's a resetting of those relationships that are happening. From the Saudi point of view, they need to be able to uh, benefit from the Turks pushing the Iranians out of the Levant, particularly Syria. But at the same time, as I said earlier, they don't want to go from sort of Iranian domination of the region to Turkish domination. So they can't fully rely on the Turks. So they have to be able to have a relationship with the Iranians. This is why you're seeing in the media now there's this talk of the Saudis wanting to mediate between the United States and the Iranians. I mean, as opposed to the Qataris and more importantly the Omanis who've done that historically. So what you have is a sophisticated Saudi game going on. Not saying that they will be successful in this. It remains to be seen. But it does show that how the Saudis now are moving into sort of the driver's seat as far as the Arab world is concerned, and I would even say the region is concerned. It'll be tough because you're up against both the Turks and the Iranians, who are in different ways have more power than you do in the ability to project power in the region. So it's going to be an uphill battle. This is where the United States comes in. This is where the Russians come in as well. It's a massive, if you will, balancing game by multiple actors.